So Top Gun Maverick is coming out this weekend, and I thought because of that, it would be a good idea to watch the original Top Gun and prepare myself. And when I watched this movie, thinking about how much I liked it as a kid, I came to one very interesting conclusion, and that conclusion was Tom Cruise is a homosexual in this movie. Because looking back at it and rewatching Top Gun from 1986, it is fucking bizarre. It's bizarre, it's awful, and I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like it. You see, I see this movie as an experiment. This movie is an experiment of what happens when you try to make the most heterosexual film of all time, accompanied with awful cringy dialogue and moments, and adding on to that a weirdly sexual but memorable soundtrack. And the answer to that equation is, you get a gay Tom Cruise. Before I explain this, let me first say that no, I don't think a movie about gay people is bad, okay? And honestly, this movie decided to make Tom Cruise just 100% out there, out of the closet gay. This movie probably would have been 10 times better and more interesting and entertaining. The problem with this movie is it tries so hard to be straight. It tries so hard to make Tom Cruise this macho man like a James Bondish or Ethan Hunt type character. Yes, I know, it's ironic. But this movie tries so hard that it actually ends up flipping the complete opposite way and making Tom Cruise a homosexual.
I decked my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
And if you don't believe me, just listen to Colin Farrell.
What about Tom Cruise, gay or straight?
Now let's really run through this movie and let's discuss how this movie tried to make an Ethan Hunt type character but ended up making an Ethan Hunt character confused about his own sexuality.
I am dangerous.
So first off, it has Tom Cruise as Maverick, and you got his friend Goose, and you got all the other people in the Top Gun Academy, including Iceman. Now listen, okay? Iceman and all those other people in the group, they're gay, okay? They represent the gay man. They represent homosexuality. Now listen, Tom Cruise at the beginning of this movie isn't gay, but he is right on that line. He is right on that line on a little fucking seesaw balancing back and forth, okay? And you can tell that because at the beginning of this movie, Maverick and Goose are at this bar, and they're trying to pick up some girls at the bar, but when they start, thinking about how they're gonna pick up some girls, Goose looks at Maverick and says, "Hey, Maverick, don't bring any boys home this time." That is a real line in the movie. I swear to God, I can't make this shit up.
You have to have carnal knowledge of a lady this time.
A lot of people say this movie has a lot of hidden and unintentional gay references, and I disagree with them because I believe this movie really just pulls out the cock and really just slaps you in the face with it. I mean, literally at the beginning of the movie, Goose literally looks into the camera and says, "Hey, Tom Cruise, try not to fuck a guy this time, right, buddy?" If that's not explicitly saying that Tom Cruise is right on the fucking edge of homosexuality, I don't know what is. Anyways, then during this scene, Tom Cruise meets the love interest of this movie named Charlie. Now again, listen, while Charlie could be a girl's name, it could also be a fucking boy's name. So again, we have something right on the edge here. Now throughout the entire movie, we have the sexual tension between Tom and Charlie, but every time you think something's gonna happen, it doesn't. Like Tom Cruise goes to her house and he's all fucking sweaty and he's like, "Hey, can I take a shower at your place? I'm so sweaty, you want to come in, take a shower with me?" And I mean, throughout this entire scene, you are thinking without a doubt in your mind 100% that they are going to fuck. I mean, in your bones, you believe that they are going to fuck. But guess what? They don't. Because Tom Cruise is right on the edge, man. He doesn't know if he should go the homosexual way or if he should go the heterosexual way. And so right when things start heating up, Tom Cruise gets on his little motorcycle and he goes back to his boys at the Top Gun Academy. Now, while this is all happening, while there's this sexual tension between Tom and Charlie, there's also this weird sexual tension between Tom and Iceman. And if you don't believe me, listen to these clips.
I am dangerous.
I heard that about you. You like to work alone.
I decked my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
Now, you would think that, maybe these clips I showed are, isolated instances, and they're not showing the true narrative of the movie. You might be like, come on, man. How much of the movie is actually weird sexual tension between Tom and Iceman? Like, that's bullshit, bro. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Yes, I went back and I timed every weird moment of sexual tension between Tom Cruise and Iceman, and I got a time of 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And you might be thinking, that's not a lot of time, like 9 minutes and 29 seconds? That's not a whole lot of time. Guess what? That is 10% of the entire movie. For 10% of the movie, Tom and Iceman are either way too close to each other, wearing basically no clothing at all, or calling each other dangerous.
Dangerous.
Again, I'm trying to tell you, this Tom Cruise is actually gay theory I have. They don't try and hide it, okay? They take their cocks out and they slap you in the face with it from the get-go of this movie. But it gets even worse, because guess what? Charlie starts seeing that, Tom is slipping over to the homosexuality side. She starts seeing that Tom is slowly crossing that line, and he's slowly backing away from heterosexuality. He's slowly embracing homosexuality fully, and so guess what? Charlie decides, fuck it. I gotta play dirty. And the next scene after Tom Cruise stands her up and doesn't fuck her, the next scene, she goes into an elevator with Tom Cruise dressed up like a fucking man. And guess what? Right after this scene, Tom finally hooks up with Charlie. But wait, it's not over yet. Because Tom Cruise is still right in that fucking line. He still hasn't crossed over to either side of the fucking fence. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the movie, in the final scene, Iceman looks at Tom and says,
You are still dangerous. You can be my wingman anytime.
and right here at this scene, Tom finally crosses over. We finally get gay Tom Cruise. And what does he say in the final scene? What is the final line of the movie?
Bullshit. You can be mine.
And then they hug right after that, and they go in the locker rooms and they fuck each other. Alright, I got a little carried away in some parts there with myself, but if that's not enough evidence for you that this movie is really about Tom Cruise dealing with his own homosexuality, I don't know what is, man. I mean, accompany this with the song Danger Zone that literally says in the chorus, Highway to the Danger Zone. Highway to Iceman's cock. But here's the problem with this movie. You see, while this movie is a weird story of a torn homosexual man, the movie was most definitely not trying to make this movie about a torn homosexual man. This movie tried so hard to make Tom Cruise a James Bondish or Ethan Hunt type character that it actually makes Tom Cruise an Ethan Hunt who gets pounded by the entire Top Gun Academy after one of his missions. And that could have been a very cool and interesting topic if the movie actually decided to go with that, but instead, the movie decided to go with something else. And this brings me to my second issue with this movie, and that being Maverick sucks. Metaphorically, not literally. Think about it. We start the movie with Maverick being an absolute piece of shit, and we end the movie with Maverick's best friend dying and him still being an absolute piece of shit. And listen, okay, I'm not saying a character has to be morally correct to be an interesting character. I mean, look at fucking Han Solo. The guy's an absolute asshole. But here's the difference between Han Solo and Maverick. Han Solo, at the end, actually has a fucking arc. Maverick has zero arc. Imagine if Han Solo didn't come back to help them all blow up the Death Star. That's what Maverick is. Maverick starts this movie being a complete and utter asshole, and he ends this movie being a complete and utter asshole who is quote-unquote dangerous. And on top of that, the dialogue in this movie, especially the dialogue in the entire relationship between Tom and Charlie, is so cringy, it hurts my penis to watch. From iconic quotes like, I feel the need the need for speed. And even dialogue that I've already recently brought up, like this one right here.
You're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Ice. Man, I am dangerous.
Or even dialogue like after the tragic death of Goose in a scene where Tom Cruise is for some reason in his underwear, the dialogue goes, and I'm quoting this, I'm not even paraphrasing this. How you doing? I'm alright. Goose is dead. I know. And if that's not enough for you, how about an emotional scene where Tom Cruise reminisces on his father?
You're a lot like he was. Only better. And worse.
And that's not even the worst part about this movie. You see, the worst part about this movie, at least for me, was having to watch a clearly homosexual man French kiss Charlie for like 3 minutes while Take My Breath Away plays sexually in the background. If you can actually sit through this scene without vomiting on your girlfriend watching this next to you, you're a better man than me. Because my girlfriend got vomit straight on her fucking face. Now, before I go, because I cannot talk about this movie any longer, otherwise I'm going to kill myself, there is still one thing we need to talk about. And that is the plot of this movie. Because the plot of this movie makes absolutely zero sense. And for those of you saying right now, it's a big Hollywood movie, who cares about the plot? I like seeing jets blow up, and I like to see Tom Cruise in abs while he plays volleyball. Shut the fuck up, please. First off, let's talk about the Russians in this movie, okay? I mean, the whole plot of the Russians was just thrown in there in like 5 minutes from some writer who was on crack cocaine and needed to come up with something because Paramount was like, hey, we need to see some jets explode in this movie, man. How can we do it? And so some writer who was coked out of his mind was like, I know what I'll do. I'll just add some Russians in there. Like, why would Russia only send 2 jets to an American cargo ship to start a fucking war? And for those of you saying they weren't trying to start a war, believe me, trying to blow up another country's aircraft is definitely starting a war. Now, not only that, but the entire plot with Charlie makes absolutely no sense as well. Charlie literally tells Tom Cruise that she is going to go to some whatever the place, go get a promotion or whatever. I don't even remember where, and I am not going to look it up because I don't care enough. But she tells Tom Cruise that she's gonna go and leave him and go to like Washington or wherever she's gonna go. And she doesn't just tell Tom, okay? She sells her house, gets on a plane, and fucking leaves. And then, at the end of the movie, Tom is walking around some diner, you know, trotting around, and somehow she's there. I mean, did these writers literally get like 5 minutes to prep this movie? Why would they put that in there? It makes no sense. I'm done. I'm done talking about this movie. I'm not gonna waste my time anymore. And the sad part about all of this is that even though I just went on this rant about why this movie is so awful, I'm still watching Top Gun Maverick literally tomorrow. Anyways, I'm gonna rate this movie now 3 out of 10. The reason why I didn't give it a 2 or a 1 is because, yes, I like the idea that Tom Cruise is dealing with his own homosexuality.
My ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
Don't watch this movie if you want to watch Top Gun Maverick. Just go and watch Top Gun Maverick. Hopefully it's good or I'm gonna kill myself. Goodbye.
You have to have carnal knowledge of a lady this time.
I am dangerous. I decked my ass. We nailed that son of a bitch.
I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right. Ice.